Hello everyone, Cinema Jack is in touch, and today I will tell you about the mystical series of 2022 years called From the Outside, with you like and subscribe. Damn it.
Jim, we're driving in circles. You were going that way, how did we get back here?
During a cross-country trip, the Matthews family, consisting of Father Jim, Mother Tabitha and Julie Eaton's children, turns off the road and finds themselves in a small town. Local Sheriff Boyd orders them to follow the road to get back on the highway. When the Matthews family continues to drive their van, instead they return to the city again and again until they collide with another car that knocks them off the road. The townspeople arrive to help, taking the passengers of the other car, Toby and Jade, back to the city. While Will and the city doctor, Christy decide to stay in the overturned van with Jim to stay with Ethan, who is immobile with a serious leg injury. Toby is later killed at the clinic by resident Sarah. On the way back to town, a car driven by Kenny's deputy runs into a spike strip left in the road for a van, which prompted Kenny, Tabitha Julie, city priest Father Hattrey, Jade and estranged son Boyd Ellis get to the colony house on foot before dark. Returning to the van, strangers approach the car at nightfall. In the city, the group barely makes it to the colony house, where the leader Donna lets them in. According to their protocol, Tabitha Julia, the unconscious JT are separated and imprisoned for their safety. In the van, Christy Boyd and Jim stabilize Ethan while strangers surround the car. At the same time, Boyd and Donna explain to Jim and Tabitha the situation in the city. The surrounding forests are full of intelligent werewolf creatures that kill for fun. All the residents of the city are people who arrived in the city and found themselves trapped, and the earliest surviving residence was a strange man named Victor. In the past, someone discovered mysterious talismans that, when placed inside the enclosing structure, acts as a shield from monsters. At the clinic, voices order the Tsar to kill Toby and open the door. The monsters enter and brutally kill everyone inside, including Kenny's elderly father. Morning comes, and Boyd and Christy bring Jim Ethan to town, while Kenny discovers a bloodbath at the clinic and grieves. In the colony, Ethan looks out of the window and sees a mysterious boy in white. Donna explains the situation already in Jade's mind. With disbelief, he assumes that the city is a quest room set up by the now deceased Toby. Catrie's father takes Jim and Tabitha on a tour of the city, explaining that they will undergo a local ritual called Choice Day, during which they will decide whether they will stay in a private house in the city itself or not at all in the colony house. Passing by a strange structure in the center of the city, Catrie explains that the only form of punishment in the city is a box in which the criminal is imprisoned for the night and left unattended. This punishment, which has never happened before, is intended for Frank, a drunkard whose negligence led to the deaths of his wife and daughter. Boyd tries to spare Frank, but he refuses. On Jade and the Matthews family's choice day, Julie chooses a colony house after her family chooses Frank's former residence, while Jade makes a scene and brings him to Toby's grave. Kenny brings Jade to his house while Julia and the rest of the Matthews family settle separately in their new homes. Frank, in punishment, is killed by monsters in a box. In the distant past, the child Victor sees the corpses of many residents. A boy in white appears and invites him to play on the carousel. In the present, it juxtaposes the boy in white he saw with Victor's drawing. Kenny shows Jade that the city has no fixed physical location. While they are talking, the radio is making noise, and Jade takes them away. In the colonial house, Julie begins to regret when she finds out that the residents share everything and live together. Julie angrily confronts Obida about Jim and Tabitha's impending divorce due to the death of their child Thomas. Tabitha returns home and argues with Jim. Victor takes Ethan in search of the boy in white. In the woods, Victor shows Ethan a tree with a hole in it. He demonstrates by throwing a stone at a tree that objects inside are teleported to another random physical space. While searching for Ethan, Jim and Tabitha are surrounded by wild dogs, but Victor scares them off with a gun. In the diner, Cerubi Titan induces hallucinations, and she has a seizure, while at this time Victor digs graves outside the colony, justifying this by saying that he wants to prepare for the bad in advance. Sarah is recovering in the clinic. Boyd begins to suspect that the city itself may cause some kind of physical reaction due to Sarah Eaton's seizures. He shows Christy that his left hand is shaking. In search of a second opinion, Sarah asks if Christy will do one bad thing to make the whole town come home. Christy answers in the affirmative, because she has an abandoned bride. Independently of each other, Jade and Jim begin to ask a question and think about the possibility that they died in a plane crash and are in purgatory. Sarah locks Tabitha in the barn and prepares to kill the Titan. Nathan stays and stops her, but in the struggle Sarah unintentionally kills Nathan. Holding Sarah captive in the basement, Catrie explains to her that the modern Bible consists of 73 books, and his theory that the townspeople are tested by God, and their current situation formulates a new, 74th book. The voices prove their existence by reminding Katri of the bag he buried when he first arrived. Boyd explains to Kenny his plan to go into the woods with the talisman to try to find a way to civilization. Kenny rejects this plan as a suicide attempt. Boyd confesses to Kenny that he suffers from an extremely rare case of early-onset Parkinson's disease. Jade and Jim repair the radio with the help of found car parts, but it only accepts static interference. Jade hallucinates being chased by a Civil War soldier. He also sees a strange symbol on the tree. When Kenny Tianchin's mother notices this, she shows him a discarded notebook with similar drawings. Returning home, Jim finds Tabitha digging a hole in the basement to find where the power lines lead. In the colony house, it is shown that a resident named Kevin has a promising relationship with one of the monsters.
When will you let me in?
Hatrie tells Boyd about Sarah and the voices. He suggests that he and Sarah accompany Boyd on his hike into the woods. Jim suggests building a real radio mast, using almost all available resources, while he and Tabitha begin serious excavations in the basement. Jade finds a photo in a discarded notebook, and Tianchin points out Victor's child on it. In the colony house, residents celebrate the first anniversary of Fatima's arrival in the city. During the party, Fatima kisses another resident, making Ellis and Julie jealous. Kevin opens the window to let his monster friend in. He will gut him and leave the window open for others. Monsters rummage inside and kill many residents, while others escape in a van. Alice and Fatima survive by barricading themselves in the foyer of the colony with the help of a talisman. And Victor and Julie run into the forest after the boy in white. Victor orders Julie to climb inside a distant tree, and she is transported to the basement. The van pulls up to the sheriff's station. While Boyd and Katri are letting the colony residents in, the monster kills the priest Katri. In Boyd's memoirs, his wife Abby Alice stays in town a few minutes before dark. They meet Katri, who leads them to a secret basement with Donna and other residents. The next day, Hatrie and Donna explain the situation in the village, and Boyd takes over the leadership to help the townspeople survive. Boyd begins organizing the city's resources and foraging in the woods, where he inexplicably finds livestock. As he takes on more responsibility, he neglects Abby and her mental health deteriorates. While searching for garbage, Boyd got lost in the woods for the night. Hiding in a cave surrounded by monsters, he discovers talismans and their protective effect. When he returns to the city the next morning, Abby indiscriminately opened fire on the townspeople, convinced that she was trapped in a nightmare. As she prepares to shoot Ellis, Boyd shoots her and kills her to save his son's life. Currently, Boyd and Alice are trying on because of Abby's death. Boyd and Sarah go into the woods, and Kenny becomes the new sheriff. Kenny, Donna and Jim explain the radio mast construction plan to other townspeople. Boyd and Sarah reach the cave where he first found the talismans and set them as a reference point. After going further than the townspeople have ever managed to go, they find a tree with small bottles hanging from its branches, and Sarah has a new seizure. In the city, people continue to build a radio mast, but do not have the necessary power source. Then Tianchin gives Jade the idea to use electricity from city houses. When Sarah wakes up, they are in a tent, and will show Sarah that there were scraps of paper in the bottles, one of which dates back to 1864. Sarah explains that this time it was a female voice that she had never heard before. She was told to tell Boyd that his plan was a mistake and that there are worse things in the forest than monsters. Then Sarah turns to Boyd by the nickname used by his wife Abby, about which no one but them could know. Then the tent was attacked by invisible forces. When the assault stops, the tent is illuminated from the outside, and the two hear a loud horn. The townspeople collect as many wires as possible to power the radio mast. Alice will propose to Fatima, and she agrees. Kenny flirts with Christy, but she rejects him because she is already engaged. Boyd and Sarah come out of the tent and discover that they are in a forest covered with cobwebs. Boyd is bitten by spiders as he approaches what he believes to be his late wife Abby in a cocoon. Boyd becomes delirious from spider bites, but Sarah convinces him to continue on his way. The townspeople make the radio mast work when a thunderstorm is approaching. Jim contacts someone on the walkie-talkie, but a voice calls him by name and warns that Tabitha should not dig. When Jim rushes home, the hole in the basement collapses, and Tabitha falls into the cave, where she is unexpectedly met by Victor. Victor warns Tabitha that monsters are sleeping in the dungeon. Boyd and Sarah see that the light and the horn is coming from the lighthouse. The boy in white instructs Sarah to enter the nearest distant tree. Sarah pushes Boyd against a tree, and he falls into a mine, where he is trapped. A bus arrives at a diner in the city. The end of the first season. Thank you all for watching. If you like the format of super short retellings of films, then subscribe to the channel and support with a like. Also leave in the comments the name of the film, the retelling of which you want to see in the next